One Piece chapter 1043, it threw the community into a frenzy. I have never seen TikTok so active in the One Piece community about spoilers. And then even the scans website went down. Luckily, I was able to read it when it first dropped, but it went down for a little bit and they were talking about something. Y'all might have to wait a little bit before you read it because everybody just flooding to there seeing what's going on. And so this obviously means there's going to be some One Piece chapter 1043 spoilers. So if you haven't read it, go read the chapter, come right back and hear my thoughts about this. But what happened at the end of the chapter, Zunisha tells Momonosuke that he has returned. It's been 800 years, but Joy Boy is finally here. And then we cut to Luffy. He's smiling, but there's something that changed about him. It appears to me like something smoking from his body, and then his hair is kind of melted. He has a grin, and that this could be potentially an awakening. This video is not necessarily me talking about what's going on with Luffy, what's his new power up, all of that. This is just me giving my thoughts about how I feel about Luffy being Joy Boy. If you want to see a video where I talk about the Gum Gum Fruit being special, Luffy the Child of Prophecy, all of that, I did a video kind of like that a few months ago. I'll leave it in the description below, but that's not what we're talking about. A lot of people gave this chapter a 10 out of 10. I don't know what it is, but a lot of time when most of the community gives something a 10 out of 10, I usually give it like a 7. But then when a lot of the community gives something like a lower rating, I usually enjoy it more, and I cannot say why. But I want to mention that Luffy being Joy Boy, it does make a lot of sense. There's been a lot of foreshadowing there. Not going to get too in depth about that. But I want to bring up some definitions. The definition of inheritance, the definition of will. We'll bring those two together because there's not really a definition since there's two different words. And then we'll look at the definition of reincarnation. So the definition of inheritance is a thing that is inherited. The definition of will is expressing a request. And so when you put two and two together, basically the definition of inheriting will is a thing that's inherited, so it's a will that is inherited. That's what those two means. And then reincarnation, the definition of that is the rebirth of a soul in a new body. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The reason why I want to bring up inherited will is because that's important. That is the theme of One Piece. Zoro, all the Straw Hats, and a lot of other characters like Law, and a few others, they've inherited somebody else's will, and that's why we love them. That's what their dreams, or it's fueled their dreams and ambitions a little bit more. And so the difference with Luffy, his inherited will is in between a mix of characters. Probably I'd say the three, Roger, Shanks, and Ace in some aspects. Rayleigh talks about how he's going to the Straw Hat's fitting on Luffy. He wants to train him because he saw Roger in Luffy. Shanks, he sees Roger in Luffy as well, and as Shanks, he looks after Luffy and cares for him. And then Ace, we saw the Red Rock, or not Red Rock, the Red Hawk, that he got that from what we speculate inheriting Ace and having a memento to him. So there's a lot of different aspects of that. And then in terms of reincarnation, Luffy's probably what we speculate to be the reincarnation of Joy Boy, if what Janice is saying is true. And then I want to mention that Joy Boy, we don't necessarily know exactly a lot about him, but we do know that it's more of a title instead of an actual person's name, I believe. So once we go in depth with Zanisha and what happened 800 years ago during the Void Century, we might actually figure out what Joy Boy, or the first Joy Boy, what his actual name was. But what we do know about Joy Boy, he was important. The promise with the mermaid princess, the Roger at him laughing, and then we saw something along the lines with Emu, where I don't know if it's a woman or a man, so I'm just gonna say they foresaw Luffy being Joy Boy because they have the giant straw hat right there, and that they also had Luffy's wanted poster. We speculate that Joy Boy, he had a straw hat, which is why Emu was after him, and also that Zunisha's a big mother fluffer, alright? So Joy Boy, since that was his companion, Zunisha might have been probably not as big as he is now 800 years into the future, but Zunisha was probably pretty darn big back then as well. And so the way that Luffy's body is changing, we speculate it's probably going to be an awakening, probably a power-up, and this makes sense. Kaido defeated Luffy. It was stated, it was like winter on the Onigashima rooftop. It had the strongest creature, the dragon Kaido, something along those lines. So Luffy needed this power-up to go against the Emperor of the Sea, and the standard anime trope is that the MC gets a random power up because of plot purposes, plot, or what do you want to call it. That's not an issue. I think that some animes do a good job of executing it, some don't, some do better than others. And I think One Piece is one of the best ones that execute the power-ups. Luffy's power-ups, they make sense. They're not necessarily just like bam, you get knocked out and all of a sudden you're a power up, because Luffy, he lost to Aokiji in CP9, and that's when he thought of ways to incorporate the devil fruit into his fighting style, which is how he came up with Gear 2nd and 3rd, which, like I said, it's random because we never seen Luffy test it or train with it. However, it made sense with how it worked and how he thought about it coming into fruition. And then there's Gear 4, Snake Man and Bound Man, how he learned during the time skip to incorporate hockey into his different fighting styles, so they make sense. There are other animes out there where certain powers make sense and then certain stuff are like, pardon my French, but ass pulls that assist to progress the story. For example, we're going to talk about the other members of the big three in Naruto and Bleach with Naruto, Sage Mode, KCM, those make sense, right? The Rasen, Shuriken, all the stuff that Naruto learned, I'm cool with. But then there's the whole, oh, well, when somebody's in trouble and I'm getting angry, then the Nine Tails gonna come out and whoop on people. Like, that's what happened with Orochimaru, that's what happened with Sasuke, that's what happened with Pain. And then with Bleach, the whole, I understand it was foreshadowed that Zangetsu, or the hollow version of Bleach, was all like, well, of Ichigo, he was like, hey, whenever you're about to die, I'm gonna come out and take over. That makes sense, but at the same time, it felt like, pardon my French again, an ass pull to help him, because against his fight in Byakuya, when Ichigo was about to lose, his hollow mask started forming. When Inoue, after Ichigo died, was like, hey, Ichigo, come back, and he was like, hey, I had to come back protector against Ukiura, and that's when he got his Vasto Lorde form. And there's other animes, you could say Dragon Ball with the Super Saiyans, Black Clover. I think Black Clover does it probably one of the worst, in how anytime somebody's in danger, if they will themselves enough, they can get a more powerful spell from their grimoire. So there's a lot of anime that do it. Like I said, some execute the random powers better than others. But moving back to Inherited Will, I want to talk about kinda somebody that gets, I think, more hate than love in the community. I think it's a mix. You either love him or hate him. We're talking about Sabo. He has inherited Ace's will. The reason why he gets a lot of hate is because him and Ace are very similar. They're both Luffy's other brother. They're both stronger than Luffy. Well, at the time that Ace was alive and during Dressrosa, Sabo and Ace, they were stronger. They're both there to protect Luffy. That's one of their main goals. Sabo, he gained the Mirror just like Ace had. And then in the future at Mary Joa, we think that Sajo is potentially captured and that this is going to lead us to the final war. So if it's the same dang character, just about, there's more stuff in depth which separates them, but hey, if they're the same dang character, then what was the point of killing them off? So the thing with Inherited Will and reincarnation, it's a bit scary in the ways that it can be gone about. If it's not done correctly, then that's when people have an issue, which leads me to the last point. This is an arc based off of identity. Luffy, he has his Joy Boy, potentially Zoro, Ryuma, Nico Robin, her power up, talking about becoming a double for her captain, Sanji accepting himself as a Vinsmoke, Momonosuke being the new leader of Wano, having to surpass Oda, Yamato being Oda in the proper mesh. And something that I liked about One Piece is how a lot of these characters, they were a bunch of nobodies, right? They were strong because they were nobodies. However, now they're starting to shift towards being strong because of their past and their genes and the bloodlines or reincarnation along those lines. So it's a bit tricky. I still love it, but I kind of wish less of them weren't reincarnations, or less of them didn't have bloodlines that boosted them in this way. But it is what it is. That's a little bit nitpicking. The last part we're going to talk about includes Luffy and Zoro parallels, because this wouldn't be a potential Unleashed video if we didn't include Zoro in some way. Just how Luffy's the reincarnation or so of Joy Boy, there was a lot of stuff that happened there, which talked about in a little bit. But with Zoro, he's speculated to have maybe the reincarnation or some resemblance of Ryuma. We saw that Gikumaru, he talked about it on the bridge, bringing up Ryuma, God of the Blade, great black blades, all of that. Then Kawamatsu and Hirogoro say he's the spinning image of Ryuma because of the scar on his eyes. He was a one-eyed swordsman, talking about Shimosuke, all that stuff. And then they have Luffy, him being Joy Boy was speculated. Janisha brought it up, and Kaido saying you weren't Joy Boy either. And Luffy was knocked off of Onigashima, then came back up, got a power up, and is now Joy Boy. And so Zoro, he was also seen recently falling off of Onigashima after he met with the skeleton or the Grim Reaper. And so since him and Luffy parallel, maybe Zoro gets back up. I don't know what he'll do, but I think that'll be pretty cool. But overall, Luffy being Joy Boy, it's not a bad thing. It was foreshadowed, Sanganika, all that stuff. I don't think it's bad. Just I want to make sure that it's executed in a way that doesn't seem like an ass pull and doesn't seem like something that shouldn't have been written that way. I just want it to be executed and written in a great and understanding way that I'm like, this makes sense and I agree. But let me know how you guys feel about Luffy being Joy Boy. Do you guys like it? Do you guys hate it? Do you guys wish that Luffy wasn't so special? I do think that Luffy, he's had some very lucky moments, you know, that he's escaped death, but he also had some very unlucky moments and they've meshed together well. So maybe this is one of his lucky moments because he just got interfered with his fight with CP0. That was very unlucky, and so him getting this power up, it may be lucky. I don't know. You do need a little bit of luck in your life. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a video from my Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat on the screen and description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.